Well, welcome everybody to this evening's Neighbourhood Conversation, and this is the 9th of November, and like we had mentioned before, the whole month of November we're doing Tuesday night sessions. So this one follows on from a very successful COP26 that's been happening in Glasgow. Well, successful as far as we're concerned. The Baha'is have had quite an input into things. And so it's related to tonight's session, if you like, is related to COP26 and environmental issues, if you like. So we're going to begin with a prayer. I'm going to say this out. This is a prayer from Baha'u'llah, and it has been set to music, but I'm just going to say it. I don't feel confident enough to be singing it with my croaky throat. And it's a lovely prayer, and you listen into the words, and it's like every place on earth is included in this. Blessed is the spot and the house and the place and the city and the heart and the mountain and the refuge and the cave and the valley and the land and the sea and the island and the meadow where mention of God hath been made and his praise glorified. Now, first of all, this evening, where is Miss Cara? Cara has been doing something connected with the climate change and the crisis that's going on. So, Cara, would you like to tell us what you've been doing this past week?
Okay, so the children's class did, and the junior youth, gathered some friends and they did a litter picking project. We did a litter picking project. And basically we went to the school, St. Cadoc's primary school, and we went to the forest that's across from it. And we did find quite a lot of litter, like bags and bags of litter. So that's actually really bad. And there was some that was actually so far into the bushes, like I don't even know how they got there in the first place. But they were so far in that we didn't actually manage to get it. So, and there was also, yeah, it's really bad. They were mostly like hidden in the bushes. Like the people there didn't want to know that they were littering, because it's like they knew what they were doing were wrong, but they did it anyway. And I think we're arranging another litter pick to do. Okay, apparently the 21st of November. And we might do it somewhere else so that we can, clean more of the place. So yeah.
Very good. Great. And then where did you put all the litter that you'd collected, Cara? Oh, sorry, she's gone. All right. What did you do with all the litter that you collected?
We put them in the bin.
Aaron took them.
Oh, okay. Aaron took them to work.
Because he works in a building site.
Yeah.
Ah, right. Okay. Well, that's wonderful. And so it was a group of you with your friends, yes?
Yeah.
Great. That's nice. It's always good if a group of kids do that rather than just one sole individual. Now, is Ranley around? I've got Ranley for doing something. Is she?
Janet, I just received a text from Ranley. She will join us at 9 o'clock.
Oh, okay, not till later. Right.
Janet, Can I just mention that I think
Yes.
for the children's class, the children had done a few drawings of the prayer that you just said, blessed is the spot.
Right.
And I don't know
Oh,
whether,
I think we saw
We
that
saw it,
recently.
yeah.
Yes, yes.
oh, did you see it in the Glasgow?
Yes, that was lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know whether Sam has it ready or Noble have it ready. No?
No, he
Okay,
does,
so
he's
we
shaking
can't-
his head. That's okay. No, I love the mountain ones. Whoever did the mountain ones, they were lovely. Yeah, nice drawings. Right, and Carol Curtis is chatting. She's saying greetings to all from. Oh, sorry, it's gone. Greetings to all from the Marshall Islands. Oh my goodness, great. An atoll nation that will disappear with climate change and sea level rise. I hope all are well and very nice to see everyone in Glasgow. Yes, Carol Curtis from the Marshall Islands. It's wonderful to see you. And hopefully we might hear from you later. That's all right.
Thank you.
Right, thanks, Carol. Okay, so the rest of the program is we're going to hand over to Hooshmand, and he's going to speak for 15-20 minutes or so, exploring, he's used the phrase exploring COP26. And then after that, Ricky's going to give us a little report about the work that was done by the task force group, the Baha'i group in Glasgow, and what they produced. And then it's just a general discussion after that. Okay, so I'll hand over to you now, Hooshmand.
Yeah, thank you very much, Janet. Thank you. And thank you, Cara, for the wonderful job you and your friends did for litter picking. This talk, Janet, is going to be in two parts. The first part is about 15-20 minutes or so. But the second part, I have requested dear Caroline Sperry Fox to read the message of the Baha'i international community about nature. So this program actually has two parts, and I will start with the first part. With your permission, I share this PowerPoint to start from there. May, is it okay, everything?
Yes, it's fine.
Is it fine? Okay then.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you very much, friends. So as Janet mentioned, the title for this short presentation is Exploring COP26. And let me, friends, begin this short presentation with a brief history of COPs, which stand for Conferences of Parties. This is a personal analysis of Glasgow COP26, and the pictures shown in this PowerPoint are randomly chosen and not directly related to what I'm saying. Please note that. The pictures are not about the negative effects of climate or destruction of nature, but shows how beautiful is our nature if we take care of it. There are enough distressful and disturbing pictures about planet, and you can see them all online. For now, let's see how beautiful is our planet Earth. COP26 is known as the Summit of Action. The concept of a COP in the context of climate change emerged with the funding of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change at the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro in 1992. This was a conference that followed the first report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, in 1990. This is an international collective of climate scientists who come together regularly to summarize the state of the art in climate research. Some of the core principles of climate change are that atmospheric greenhouse gases cause a planetary warming effect, and that human activities are increasing the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, and that taking together item 1 and item 2 will contribute to further warming of the planet through a heightened greenhouse effect. Conferences of the parties to the original agreement, or COPs, would take place on an annual basis for nations, transnational organizations, NGOs, and others to come together to discuss the latest development and negotiate collective action on climate. COP1 took place in Berlin in 1995, and subsequent COPs have taken place annually ever since. With the exception of 2020, where the COP was delayed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The COP that was due to take place that year was meant to be hosted in Glasgow, and it was postponed until November 2021, which is currently going on. And actually in November, the number was 26 for this particular COP, and 3 more days are left to end this particular summit. More than 100 leaders of nations attended COP26 in Glasgow, plus thousands of delegates from various groups to participate in making plans. A number of goals were set, which is a continuation of the previous COPs, including to cut CO2 emissions, to cut deforestation, and the goal of having $100 billion per year to take care of the problems we have created. Among many topics of interest discussed at the preliminary sessions, the following 4 topics got my attention. That education of masses of people about nature and having a clean environment is imperative. That interdependency of people and nations is a fact and cannot be denied. That there is a need of changing human lifestyle and observing moderation, and that the basis of any decision and action taken for climate change should be based on morality. COP26 is mainly about justice versus climate change. The injustices done is not to the environment only. It is done to nature, and nature includes everything on this planet. When some injustices are done to humans, there are ways and means to stop it or bring to the attention of others. Most of the revolutions that take place are based on injustices done to a group of people. But how animals and nature can respond to injustices done to them? Almost every speaker of the preliminary sessions supported the view that climate change starts with people. People have the power to control the environment. Therefore, masses of people should be attracted to this subject. Masses of people should have sufficient knowledge and information about nature and having a clean environment and the use of appropriate technology and healthy lifestyle. There is a need to use the kind of education which is right for the masses of people. Not everybody is a scientist to know terminologies used in speeches presented in COP26 or even similar events. What percentage of people of the world are scientists? Everybody can distinguish between good and bad. When masses of people become involved, there won't be a need for too much government intervention or other institutions to intervene. People are at the center of activities for climate change, and this can lead to a sustainable society. Of course, we cannot disregard or deny the importance of these events. Issues such as global warming and poverty and various pandemics and human migration and displacement are not limited to one country. COP26 shows that environmental protection is the responsibility of every nation. These events are important because it shows that the solution for global problems requires consultation and effective decision-making. These events show that humanity has reached to a level that understands the interdependency of a global society. Despite geographic distances, leaders from around the world have attended COP26 to consult issues and create models that not only affect their own people, but the people of the world. Any reasonable model, however, should consider the dual nature of human beings, spiritual and material. So for achieving a good result, there is a need to create a harmonious relationship between spirituality and our natural environment. The view of one leader attended COP26 was that for a successful climate change, we should put aside our differences and join together and to be reconciled. He said, together we make miracles. Now, friends, here, once again, please note that the slides and images has nothing to do with what I'm talking. The pictures are here to look at them in case you are bored of what I'm saying. So, friends, it is becoming increasingly clear that the world has become reduced to a global village. And in an ideal sense, the village represents the entire humanity. These changes have made our world smaller, and hence it is understood by governments and international institutions that global crisis requires global attention. We are still in the middle of COVID-19 pandemic, and this is acknowledged by a number of speakers at COP26, that pandemic COVID-19 was spread fast throughout the world without consideration of any discrimination and border limitation. And this shows that humanity is extremely connected with each other. With this pandemic, some of the challenges and problems of current globalization, such as the importance of climate change, is understood, and the new awareness about an ideal globalization based on the concept of unity is shaping. Creating ideal globalization is a process and not a one-time event. The popular phrase used in COP26 is sustainability. We know that components of sustainability defined by the United Nations has three characteristics. They are maintaining the well-being of the present generation, respecting the well-being of future generation, and preserving nature. Having a good life is a human right for everyone. An ideal globalization is a condition with sustainable living, having clean energy, clean water, and clean air. So, does globalization has a future? The answer is yes. But is this the type of globalization we wish to have for the future generation? The answer is no, because the current formula for shaping an ideal and enlightened globalization is not in accordance with the standard of justice. The injustices done to nature is a clear demonstration of this view. Some delegates and campaigners have argued that we are late to take care of our planet. At the COP26, a 15-year-old girl from India stated that, and I quote, "I am not here to talk about the future. I am the future." End of the quote. She's right. Climate change is affecting everybody at all times, today and tomorrow. While this may be true, we don't have to give up, but need to change the process. The process should start with the education of all, and in particular, the education of children, beginning at home with conscious parents and at school globally. Children in particular should grow up with the purpose and determination of respecting nature. This way, respecting nature becomes a norm and becomes a natural way of life. Such actions result in having minimum government intervention because people are at the center of activities and doing what is right for nature. Government should be engaged in activities that people and organizations are not able to do. We don't need the government to tell us what is the right way of living. Planet Earth is the home of humanity. Why not take care of our community, our city, our country, and our planet in the same way we take care of our home? The management of a home is by those living in that home and not by the government. Therefore, people have a great responsibility to take care of nature. I was impressed by a number of comments given by some delegates who recommended that we are all breathing the same air, and therefore climate change should not be a matter of politics. COP26 can become a success if it is out of politics. This requires putting aside national interest and focusing on global interest. Politics is focused on short-term plans. Environmental issues require a process of having a long-term plan with responsibility. It was stated that children are watching COP26 and they don't like empty promises. Consultation needs to be followed by appropriate decisions and are relevant to useful and practical with sufficient tools available for achieving it. Hence, the words and language used in COP26 and similar events need to be transformed into action. COP26 is also about humanity versus climate change. It is a matter of life and death for some people and for some nations, especially those vulnerable countries with little access to appropriate knowledge and technology and investment for fixing the problems that are created by the rich and developed countries. There must be trust between developed and developing countries to take care of the environment more effectively. Let me quote Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, who said, and I quote it, "For those that have eyes to see, for those that have ears to listen, for those that have a heart to feel, 1.5 degrees is what we need to survive. 2 degrees is a death sentence for the people of Antigua and Barbados, for the people of the Maldives, for the people of Dominica and Fiji, for the people of Kenya and Mozambique, and for the people of Samoa and Barbuda. We do not want that dreaded death sentence, and we have come here today to say, try harder, try harder." So, friends, of course, not all summits like COP26 are successful by themselves. but it is a process that needs attention. Leaders who attended this summit are an important instrument to convey the message to the people of the countries. The summits are mainly a time and place for speeches delivered by few who are representing the rest of humanity. At COP26, we heard the stories of a limited number of representatives of humanity. The stories of billions of people are not heard. The action is required to follow up in every corner of the planet. Everyone is responsible. Otherwise, as one leader stated, the future generation will not forgive us. The process also includes a change in human awareness, especially in the developed countries that are responsible for a greater amount of climate disorder and environmental degradation. Today, there are enough resources to take care of the problem. However, the priorities of some governments are different. Let me say one example. In 2008, when we had a global economic crisis, the governments of the developed countries managed to provide $1 trillion within a few months to take care of the economic crisis. How come for climate change that every human being is affected, there is a delay and confusion and lack of interest to collectively fix it? So there is a great need for good and positive conversation among leaders of the world to make sure decisions are taken for a collective interest rather than self-interest. Today, we have financial capacity for investment, we have access to the right technology, and we have sufficient knowledge. Why then we are stuck to fixing the climate? This is the 26th big event. How many more do we need to understand that humans require clean air to breathe and stay healthy? COP26 is also about creating a green economy. The green economy is about an economy that is sustainable. More jobs are in the green economy. It is about sustainable trade, sustainable living, sustainable development, sustainable ecosystem, sustainable forest and ocean and rivers, and sustainable energy. The green economy is about sustainability in all aspects of life. It is about the role of producers to produce products that are sustainable, and it is about consumers buying products that are sustainable. And it is about all participants of the market behaving in a sustainable way. Therefore, friends, there is a need for a transformation process from high carbon economies to low carbon economies. It is very easy to make a mess with the planet Earth by producing emissions of all kinds. However, it requires great effort to be clean. Climate change and climate justice go well together when we are working as it should be and collectively. Glasgow COP26 needs a plan of action. Leaders and campaigners argue that it is time to act and act together. Campaigners and pressure groups are also raising a number of reasonable questions addressed to the leaders of society. For example, when are you going to stop empty promises and become action-oriented? When are you going to get more serious? When are you going to think about humanity as a whole? And when are you going to put morality as a basis for doing climate change? It is easy to destroy the planet Earth, but if we want to fix it, there is a need for cooperation action, collective interest based on justice and fairness. Therefore, there is a need for restructuring the entire society, restructuring our educational institutions, our agriculture, our politics, our economics, restructuring the way we live, and restructuring our mind. A reasonable question is that, do leaders have the capacity to deal with such problems? The answer is not by themselves. For getting a good result, three groups should work and cooperate together, including government institutions, private organizations, and masses of people. Moral principles should be the basis of consultation among these groups. This is the age of maturity. Consultation is a sign of maturity. We consult and make decisions together. Another sign of maturity is collective interest rather than self-interest. And another sign of maturity is cooperation rather than competition for an unlimited economic growth. Climate change requires these groups to have activities in harmony with nature. Baha'u'llah, the prophet and founder of the Baha'i faith, states, nature in its essence is the embodiment of my name, the maker, the creator. Its manifestations are diversified by varying causes. And in this diversity, there are signs for men of discernment. Nature is God's will and is its expression in and through the contingent world. It is a dispensation of providence ordained by the ordainer, the All-Wise. Commenting on this, the Baha'i international community states that with these words, Baha'u'llah, the prophet founder of the Baha'i faith, outlines the essential relationship between man and the environment, that the grandeur and diversity of the natural world are purposeful reflection of the majesty and bounty of God. For Baha'is, there follows an implicit understanding that nature is to be respected and protected as a divine trust for which we are answerable. So, dear friends, to end this first part presentation and continue with the second part, I have requested dear Mrs. Caroline Sperry Fox to read the rest of the statement of the Baha'i International Community dated 1986 about Baha'i perspective on nature. Please, Caroline.
Yeah. Such a theme, of course, is not unique to the Baha'i faith. All the world's major religions make this fundamental connection between the Creator and his creation. How could it be otherwise? All the major independent religions are based on revelations from one God, a God who has successively sent his messengers to earth, so that humankind might become educated about his ways and will. Such is the essence of Baha'i belief. As the most recent of God's revelations, however, the Baha'i teachings have a special relevance to present-day circumstances, when the whole of nature is threatened by man-made perils ranging from the wholesale destruction of the world's rainforests to the final nightmare of nuclear annihilation. A century ago, Baha'u'llah proclaimed that humanity has entered a new age. Promised by all the religious messengers of the past, this new epoch will ultimately bring peace and enlightenment for humanity. To reach that point, however, humankind must first recognize its fundamental unity, as well as the unity of God and of religion. Until there is a general recognition of this wholeness and interdependence, humanity's problems will only worsen. The well-being of mankind, its peace and security, are unattainable unless and until its unity is firmly established, Baha'u'llah wrote. The earth is but one country, and mankind its citizens. The major issues facing the environmental movement today hinge on this point. The problems of ocean pollution, the extinction of species, acid rain and deforestation, not to mention the ultimate scourge of nuclear war, respect no boundaries. All require a transnational approach. While all religious traditions point to the kind of cooperation and harmony that will indeed be necessary to curb these threats, the religious writings of the Baha'i faith also contain an explicit prescription for the kind of New World political order that offers the only long-term solution to such problems. That which the Lord hath ordained as the sovereign remedy and mightiest instrument for the healing of the world is the union of all its people in one universal cause, Baha'u'llah wrote. Built around the idea of the World Commonwealth of Nations, with an international parliament and executive to carry out its will, such a new political order must also, according to the Baha'i teachings, be based on principles of economic justice, equality between the races, equal rights for women and men, and universal education. All these points bear squarely on any attempt to protect the world's environment. The issue of economic justice is an example. In many regions of the world, the assault on rainforests and endangered species comes as the poor, legitimately seeking a fair share of the world's wealth, fell trees to create fields. They are unaware that over the long term, and as members of a world community which they know little about, they may be irretrievably damaging rather than improving their children's chances for a better life. Any attempt to protect nature must, therefore, also address the fundamental inequalities between the world's rich and poor. Likewise, the uplifting of women to full equality with men can help the environmental cause by bringing a new spirit of feminine values into decision-making about natural resources. The scriptures of the Baha'i faith note that man has dominated over woman by reason of his more forceful and aggressive qualities, both of body and mind. But the balance is already shifting. Force is losing its dominance, and mental alertness, intuition, and the spiritual qualities of love and service, in which woman is strong, are gaining ascendancy. Hence, the new age will be an age less masculine and more permeated with feminine ideals. Education, especially an education that emphasizes Baha'i principles of human interdependence, is another prerequisite to the building of a global conservation consciousness. The faith's theology of unity and interdependence relates specifically to environmental issues. Again, to quote Baha'i sacred writings, by nature is meant those inherent properties and necessary relations derived from the realities of things, and these realities of things, though in the utmost diversity, are yet intimately connected one with the other. Liken the world of existence to the temple of man. All the organs of the human body assist one another. Therefore, life continues. Likewise, among the parts of existence, there is a wonderful connection and interchange of forces, which is the cause of life, of the world, and the continuation of these countless phenomena. The very fact that such principles should come with the authority of religions and not merely from human sources is yet another piece of the overall solution to our environmental troubles. The impulse behind the Assisi declarations on nature is testimony to this idea. There is perhaps no more powerful impetus for social change than religion. Baha'u'llah said, "Religion is the greatest of all means for the establishment of order in the world and for the peaceful and contentment of all that dwell therein." In attempting to build a new ecological ethic, the teachings of all religious traditions can play a role in helping to inspire their followers. Baha'u'llah, for example, clearly addressed the need to protect animals. Look not upon the creatures of God except with the eye of kindliness and of mercy, for our loving providence hath pervaded all created things, and our grace encompassed the earth and the heavens. He himself expressed a keen love and appreciation for nature, furthering the connection between the environment and the spiritual world in Baha'i theology. The country is the world of the soul. The city is the world of bodies, Baha'u'llah said. This dichotomy between spirituality and materialism is a key to understanding the plight of humankind today. In the Baha'i view, the major threats to our world environment, such as the threat of nuclear annihilation, are manifestations of a world-encompassing sickness of the human spirit, a sickness that is marked by an overemphasis on material things and a self-centeredness that inhibits our ability to work together as a global community. The Baha'i faith seeks above all else to revitalize the human spirit and break down the barriers that limit fruitful and harmonious cooperation among men and women, whatever their national, racial, or religious background. For Baha'is, the goal of existence is to carry forward an ever-advancing civilization. Such a civilization can only be built on an earth that can sustain itself. The Baha'i commitment to the environment is fundamental to our faith.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Janet and friends.
Right, thank you very much. That was an outstanding piece of reading there, Carolyn, and so much in each page to think about there. Hooshmand, are we wanting just to go ahead with Ricky at this moment, or?
Yes, yeah, I think so, please.
Okay, right.
Please.
So that was something that was written in 1986, obviously.
Yes.
But more current and up to date, we've got Ricky's report on what's been happening over the last few months in Glasgow.
Possible to stop screen sharing.
Right. Ricky's wondering if it's possible to stop screen sharing now.
Oh, yes, yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
So in the early summer, the local assembly of Glasgow was prompted to come up with a plan of action in order to address the opportunity of COP26, mainly because the conference was going to be happening in their jurisdiction, to put it mildly. Their response to that was to form a task force, and they asked me and 5 other people to be members of this task force. The mandate that was given to us was blank. We had no steer. We had no direction in which we should go into. They simply said, represent us and represent the Baha'i viewpoint. At our first meeting, there wasn't a lot of talk because, possibly like myself, we all felt daunted by this task. We were aware, this was around about June, we were aware that the eyes of the world would be focused in Glasgow in early November. and that hundreds upon thousands of people would be making their way to the city to have their point of view, one way or the other, expressed. And in and amongst all of that, we wanted to represent our local assembly to ensure that the Baha'i voice was also part and parcel of that milieu of conversation that was ongoing. So the COP26 task force took it upon themselves to work out their own terms of reference, their own framework, whereby they would go ahead and do their work on behalf of the local assembly. We looked at two themes, two common themes, one of which was awareness and education on the one hand, and action on the other hand. And we thought that we would look at these two themes and focus ourselves within their parameters in order to carry out our mission. We then decided on 4 particular areas to which we would apply ourselves. To begin with, we were quite inspired by the fact that one of the members of our task force, Lindsay John, is our resident artist. And he had the wisdom of and the inspiration of designing our logo, the bird of paradise we've been colloquially calling it. Lindsay then gifted this piece of artwork to the assembly, who then said to us, use it at your will. It's at our behest. You can do with it as you wish. So from the very outset, we decided to begin with that we would commence a series of what we call Earth reflection meetings. These were to be virtual, and this was part of our stroke awareness campaign. And in that space, we thought we would have 4 of them, starting in the month of August, September, October, and finally the last one we had last week during the conference itself. And this was a sort of a sacred space in the virtual world, whereby we would ask artists in particular to bring their impression and their reflections as to what the planet and its environment really meant to them. So it was sort of inspirational. And naturally, the participants were not exclusively from the Baha'i faith. In fact, very few of the presentations and representations were made by Baha'is. And we had poems, we had readings, we had vignettes, we had little videos, and so on and so forth. At each and every time, we had quite a large audience, mostly because one of the other things we had decided to do was to collaborate with like-minded organizations, and especially faith-based organizations. We decided that we would collaborate with the Glasgow and Scottish interfaith organizations. And as such, every time we hosted an event, we would send the invite onto their links as well. We further decided that we would collaborate with the European Environmental Forum. And once again, every time we hosted an event, we would use their email chain to send out our invitations. And finally, with regards to collaboration, we decided we would offer our services to the Baha'i international community because we knew they were going to be sending people to the conference to make their presentation and to make their presence felt. Their particular focus was on global governance. And we were able to, initially they wanted to make a presentation in the blue zone, which was the governmental part of the conference. And apparently that wasn't accepted. And we were able to allow them to host their event, both live and by Zoom or in cyberspace at the time they wanted. And they were able to deliver their presentation and have the kind of audience they were hoping to have and the kind of event they were hoping to have. We were also able to facilitate them to carry out their work, to then conduct a series of panel-based seminars, all in the theme of environmental challenges. And again, to my recollection, at each of these events, participation was very strong and very high. That was our work with regards to awareness and education. We then decided that we would take things down to 2 levels. One, which would be personal, which would be a call to action to each and every person that we knew. And the second one was collective action, which we would then embark upon as a group. So with regards to personal action, my colleagues did an awful lot of work, and they were truly inspired in creating this beautiful, this wonderful document, which is called our Eco Pledge document. It's available online via PDF and other types of version, and possibly at the end of the presentation, we're happy because we've launched the document. We're happy if Hooshmand would care to share it to members of the email string that we use, so that people would be able to afford themselves a read of this document. And what it is, it's a series of 19 pledges, each of which is a personal call to action, like I will choose an ethical energy supplier. I will source my food ethically. I will look at green alternatives. I will look at I will look at naturally sourced products, and so on and so forth. And each of these pledges would then have an understanding as to why the pledge was crafted like that, and a quotation from the Baha'i writings. And the manner in which we designed the document was to allow Baha'i communities in particular, this is our wish, we can't foist this on anybody, to adopt a pledge for every Baha'i month, which is why there were 19 of them. And as such, for an entire calendar year, we're hoping beginning this one, Baha'i communities, possibly, it's our hope, the length and breadth of the planet, would be able to use this document to focus people's attentions on all things environmental. And that focus can roll on through an entire Baha'i year. The last part of our action was to adopt what we call 2 legacy projects. We were aware that at some point, the dust of COP will settle, and the din and the fanfare will die down, and the world's media circus will roll on to something else. We wanted a way of keeping people's hearts and minds focused. So we adopted 2 legacy projects, each of which will commit ourselves as a task force via the Assembly of Glasgow to continue to work with and work for at least a period of 5 years. The first of which is to commit to planting at least 1,000 trees per year in the Trees for Life Grove, which is in the north of Scotland. The second is a project that's very close to my heart and very dear to me, is in a place in Guyana, in the rainforests of Guyana, called Iwokrama. And Iwokrama is a native word which means place of refuge. And Iwokrama is a conservation area of nearly 1 million acres of rainforest that, by dint of an act of parliament of the Guyanese government, was handed over to the management committee on the one hand, and the indigenous communities that live in the Iwokrama area. And as such, that area is now by law protected and can only be used for environmental purposes and to provide the indigenous communities with a means of living. We have committed to fundraise again for a period of no less than 5 years, monies which we intend to send to this project to assist them with their work. And these 2 things we adopted as our legacy projects. That's it.
There we are.